of the University of the West Indies. We are here at the Daaga Auditorium in Trinidad and Tobago, and we're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and UETV. My name is Tamara Williams, and I would like to welcome you to this evening's live stream for this prestigious event. A very special thank you to our UE family, alumni, friends, and well-wishers for tuning in from your homes, offices, or wherever you are right now to share this special celebration with us. Professor Copeland is a distinguished scholar, an experienced engineer, and a respected university administrator. He has served in many different capacities over 30 years with the University of the West Indies, including Dean of the Faculty of Engineering. His reputation as a collegial leader is well established within the campus and throughout the university. He is known for demonstrating concern for students and has shown deep commitment to their well-being. Professor Copeland has won many prestigious awards. In 1987, he received a Fulbright scholarship to pursue a doctoral program at the University of Southern California, Los Angeles. He went on to receive the 2001 B.P. Amoko Fellowship Award for Senior Academic Staff at the UWI and the Guardian Life Premium Teaching Award in 2002. In 2007, he was joint recipient of the Shakonia Medal Gold as a member of the GPAN development team. In 2008, Professor Copeland was the first recipient of the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. He currently coordinates the Steel Pan Initiatives Project, SIP, which saw the development and patenting of the G-pan, a re-engineered form of the traditional steel pan, as well as the percussive harmonic instrument Phi, an electronic form of the steel pan. Locally and regionally, he is respected as a professional with integrity and as a citizen who is concerned with the development of the people and communities that the UWI serves. Today's ceremony includes remarks from Vice-Chancellor, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, Minister of Education, Mr. Anthony Garcia, Chairman of the Campus Council, Mr. Ewart Williams, other campus principals of the UWI. Other speakers will include representatives of the Guild of Students, the UWI Alumni Association, and the West Indian Group of University Teachers. You can also look out for the performances from the campus's very own Department of Creative and Festival Arts and special performances on the Phi. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining us this evening. If you're only now tuning in, we are live from the induction ceremony of Professor Brian Copeland as Pro Vice-Chancellor and Campus Principal at the UWI St. Augustine campus. I do hope you enjoy sharing this evening's ceremony with us. We encourage you to share your thoughts and well-wishes on social media. And please, be sure to use the ceremony's official hashtag, Principal Copeland Induction. We now take you inside the Daaga Auditorium for the Academic Procession.
We'll have a delayed start. Our president is on his way, and as soon as he arrives, we'll get started. Thank you for your patience.
Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to the induction ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the Chancellor's procession.
President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, SC, ORTT, and Her Excellency Rima Carmona. Honorable Chief Justice, Mr. Justice Ivor Archie, ORTT, Chancellor Sir George Arlene, Vice-Chancellor Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, Chancellor-designate Mr. Robert Bermudez and Ms. Usha Rani Miraj, his wife, Minister of Education, the Honorable Anthony Garcia, Minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Honorable Stuart Young, Minister of Community Development, Culture and the Arts, Dr. the Honorable Nayan Gadsby Dolly and Mr. Dolly, the Minister of Health, the Honorable Terence Dial Singh, the Minister of Labor and Small Enterprise Development, the Honorable Jennifer Batiste Primus and Mr. Primus, Minister in the Ministry of Education, Dr. the Honorable Lovell Francis, our inductee, Pro-Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal, Professor Brian Copeland, and Mrs. Copeland and his son, and Kathy, his daughter, and his son Keon, and his two sisters. Heads of our diplomatic missions, our Campus Council Chair, Mr. Hewitt Williams, principals of our sister campuses, Principal Eugene Barreto, the principal of Cable Campus, Principal Professor Archie MacDonald, the principal of the Mona Campus, Principal Luz Longsworth, the principal of the Open Campus, Deputy Principal of the St. Augustine Campus, Professor Rhoda Reddock, Pro-Vice Chancellors, and we have with us this evening Pro-Vice Chancellor Alan Cobley and Pro-Vice Chancellor Dale Weber, the Acting University Bursar, Mrs. Andrea McNeish, members of Parliament, and we'd like to particularly single out the Honorable Dr. the Honorable Bo Tiwari, a former principal of the St. Augustine campus, and Mr. Fazal Karim, a former senior member of our management team on this campus. Good to have you in our midst. Campus Registrar, Mr. Richard Saunders, Campus Bursar, Mrs. Andrea Taylor-Hanna, Campus Librarian, Mr. Frank Sudin, the Mayor of San Fernando, His Worship Alderman Junior Regrello, deans and other members of senior management of the St. Augustine staff, our student representatives, and students in our midst. We are especially pleased to have in our midst some of our honorary graduates. I see Hollis Charles. I'm not sure, my eyes are not going all that far, but I know we have about 4 of them in our midst, and we're exceedingly pleased to have you here. Members from our stakeholder community who would be bringing greetings, members of the private and public sectors, members of the media, our specially invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is William Iden, and I'm going to be your host this evening, and it's a distinct pleasure of mine to welcome you to this very special evening. It's special for more than one reason. Our inductee, who is not as new as you think, he's now nearly a year in the office, so he's not a veteran, but he's quite seasoned, is taking his oath and going to be giving us his vision statement of where he's going to take this campus in the next 5 years. And most of you might be aware, because we recognize Chancellor-designate, this is going to be the last formal function for our Chancellor, Sir George. We thanked him before, but we take this opportunity to thank him again for his wonderful stewardship over the last 14 years. As we induct the 8th principal, we recognize the significant contributions of those who came before him, starting with Sir Philip Sherlock, Sir Dudley Huggins, Professor Lloyd Braffett, Professor George Maxwell Richards, Professor Compton Bourne, Dr. Bo Tiwari, and Professor Clement Sankat. We are indeed indebted to them for their significant contributions that they each made in taking the campus to where it is today. It is perhaps the largest of our 4 campuses. As I read through the list, I observed that there were 2 former deans of the Faculty of Engineering who used that pathway to get to the principalship. And it seems as though it's a prescription, because here we have again a former dean of engineering assuming the highest office on this campus. Again, this evening is significant because Principal Copeland, like his predecessor, Professor Sankat, started as a student, worked his way straight through, head of department, dean, and now principal. I observed when we inducted Principal Archie MacDonald that the principalship is perhaps one of the most challenging jobs around. He or she is not only the academic leader, but he or she also is the administrative leader of a most complex organization. Over there, Professor Emeritus Netterford said that university politics is real politics. And the principal has to navigate that terrain. But Brian is particularly well suited for that. You can see his nature. Nothing ruffles him. And he has an enormous amount of relational skills. So we are extremely confident that he would steer this ship successfully and take it to new heights. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I would like to invite our Vice-Chancellor to make remarks. And I note that Principal Copeland was appointed under his watch.
His Excellency, President Carmona and Mrs. Carmona, our distinguished Chief Justice, Chancellor Sir George Alleyne, and our Chancellor-designate, Mr. Bermudez and Ms. Moraj, honorable ministers, and I wish to recognize especially our Minister Garcia, Dr. Francis, and other officials of government. I wish to also recognize former Minister of Education, Mr. Fazal Karim, our Chairman of Campus Council, Dr. Williams, and other members of Council, Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, Principal Copeland, Mrs. Copeland, and all members of his family and his friends and his supporters this evening, principals, pro-vice-chancellors, deputy principals, and all university leaders, including our student leaders. I wish to recognize also former principals, Principal Professor Bourne and Dr. Tawari. Special welcome to you both, sir. Our student leaders, especially members of the university community, our friends, our supporters, our stakeholders. Very good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We are met this afternoon to celebrate the appointment of one of our distinguished colleagues, Professor Brian Copeland. We're also celebrating and reaffirming our commitment to the principles of leadership, of service to our communities, our countries, our region, and dedicating ourselves again in moments such as this and displaying our sustained commitment to Caribbean civilization and all of the objectives and missions we have set for ourselves as a people. At all levels of our institutional and social existence, the role of leadership is recognized as paramount. And this is especially so in our specific context, a developing economy, post-colonial societies, charting innovative ways into the future. In our university, we have placed great value not only upon the nature of our choices, but also upon the procedures and our search for consensus and collegiality, and our demonstration of transparency in our process, and the search for individuals who can sustain our region along its transformational trajectories. In our deliberations, we were driven by the agenda to ensure that this magnificent campus continues to confront and contribute to finding sustainable solutions to the big issues facing our people. The consensus that surrounded Professor Copeland spoke to the fact that we have recognized in him the maturity not only of a scholar, but of an administrator who is prepared in a resolute fashion to take on the task of leadership. On our St. Augustine campus, which is so perfectly positioned and poised to drive and to lead in the area of science and technology, the search for an innovative culture in this country, his leadership will be important going forward. In this regard, he has already demonstrated his commitment and capacity. His legacy along this terrain is well known, and the expectation is that he will continue to demonstrate not only his personal proficiency, but his commitment to the regional development of this university. One of the greatest investments this enterprising nation has made in our university in recent decades has been the provision of cash and of land for the establishment of the Penal Debate site. Our expectation is that this campus will be fully operational and designed to global best standards within the coming academic year. Principal Copeland will no doubt cope with this exciting challenge and use his leadership skills to deliver for this campus and for this country and this region this new and innovative dispensation. He is passionate, I know, about the need to participate in the diversification of this country's economic base, and to do so with the support of innovative research and the alignment of our campus with its industrial capacity and industrial leadership. There is a tremendous amount of work to be done. And as we confront these challenges, Principal Copeland, we know, will continue to commit his capacity to deliver the results we expect. The wider university has already risen in support of our newest principal, and he in turn has taken to his primary task with professionalism. I am honored and privileged to have participated in his selection and will continue to encourage his creativity as we affirm collectively our commitment to our people. On behalf of the wider university family, therefore, I offer once again congratulations to Principal Copeland as he prepares for the big task ahead of leading this campus into the future. I wish for him all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice-Chancellor, and I'm sure Principal Copeland appreciates the vote of confidence. It is indeed pleasing to see this hall full. I've never seen it so full. It's a measure of the band that we inducted this evening. I would also like to recognize those who are joining us virtually, because this program is being streamed. And permit me to say a special welcome to Irma. Good to have you with us. She was like the matriarch of the Faculty of Engineering. So I'm sure it's really good to have her. We now have a musical interlude, and I'll tell you a little about our presenter. The song is entitled My Tribute, and it's being done by Mr. Christopher Suku, who is a first-year student in the musical arts degree program at the Department of Creative and Festival Arts. Please welcome Mr. Suku.
I say thanks for the things you have done for me, things so undeserved, yet you give to prove your love for me. The voices of a million angels could not express my gratitude. All that I am and ever hope to be, I owe it all to thee. To God be the glory, to God be the glory, to God be the glory for the things He has done. With His blood He has saved me. With His power He has raised me. To God be the glory for the things He has done. Just let me live my life, let it be pleasing, God, to Thee. And should I give any praise, let it go to Calvary. With His blood He has saved me. With His power He has raised me. To God be the glory for the things He has done. Just let me live my life, let it be pleasing, God, to Thee. And should I gain any praise, let it go to Calvary. With His blood He has saved me. With His power He has raised me. To God be the for the things he has done for me. For me.
Thank you, Mr. Suku. A very, very wonderful rendition. I should also advise that the program is being aired on UWI TV, UE TV, and I hope all of you in the audience are aware of its existence. We beam in 22 countries in the Caribbean and in the diaspora in New York, London, and Toronto. So if you haven't yet viewed UE TV, make it a date, please. This evening's program is built around the inaugural address of our inductee. But there are several, well, we have chosen representatives from all our major stakeholder groups, the least of which certainly isn't our students. So we're going to have a first batch of tributes, and in this order. The president of the Guild of Students at St. Augustine, Mr. Jonathan St. Louis Nahus, and he would be followed by Mr. Jerry Medford, the president of the Alumni Association, again, one of the very critical groups in our midst. We have in excess of 100,000 alum. If each of us, because I am an alum also, if each of us gave $1, it would make Andrea very happy. And Jerry would be followed by Dr. Bishnu Raghunath, the president of WIGOT. Again, WIGOT is a major partner in this enterprise, and we have been able to enjoy very amicable relations, and I hope we continue to do that, Bishnu. So, Jonathan.
President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Anthony Carmona, and Her Excellency Rima Carmona, Chancellor Sir George Allen, the Honorable the Chief Justice of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Justice Archie, Vice-Chancellor Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, Minister of Education, the Honorable Anthony Garcia, other ministers of government, our inductee, Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Campus Principal, St. Augustine Campus, Professor Brian Copeland and Mrs. Copeland, esteemed heads of missions and other members of the Diplomatic Corps, Chancellor-designate Mr. Robert Bermudez and Ms. Mirage, Chairman, Campus Council, Mr. Ewart Williams, members of Parliament, other members of the UE Senior Executive Management Team, Campus Executive Management Team, deans and other members of senior management and staff of the UWI St. Augustine Campus, distinguished speakers, members of the private and public sectors, members of the media, and all our specially invited guests. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It was said by Aristotle that educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. When I first interacted with Professor Copeland, he didn't meet the expectations my mind had conceived of what a new principal would be like. I was surprised at how refreshingly down-to-earth and easygoing he could appear, and frankly, at how much of a normal person he seemed. He would laugh and make jokes with students, and in brief conversations would share introspections about common vulnerabilities that showed him to be human and relatable. And he would walk around campus with a book bag on his back, appearing as just another evening student. I see in him a leader with a propensity for compassion and sensitivity to the subtle struggles that many students must cope with and try to mask every day. The most powerful leadership tool you have is your own personal example and ability to inspire others to persevere. And you have already shown yourself, Professor Copeland, as a strong-minded person with a great vision for our campus. Your goodwill, appreciation, motivation, and support has a great impact in molding our students for the integral dimensions of the growth of this institution and the challenges that life has laid ahead. If I am to wish something for you, it would be that you continue to have an understanding and empathy for the disillusionment of our youth and our yearning to achieve in a society and era that continuously sends the subtle but deeply resonating message that the odds of our success stand against us. This university is a vessel for the transformation of our region, and our campus is to be led not only with your mind, but with your heart as well. The mind sees what is, but the heart knows what should be. As a student, I ask that you lead us and ignite once more within us what we still intrinsically sense, that each of us can be as great as we wish to be, if only we would believe it possible. Great when we must stand alone, great as we stand together, great as a family, as an institution, and as members of the University of the West Indies. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to welcome the new principal of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies, Professor Brian Copeland. I, on behalf of the Guild of Students of this campus, wholeheartedly welcome you, and we hope that with your energy, enthusiasm, and focus on education and learning, our institute achieves greater excellence under your leadership and guidance. Congratulations and welcome. Thank you.
President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, SCORTT, and Her Excellency Ramona Carmona, Chancellor Sir George Alleyne, the Honorable Chief Justice of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Justice Ivor Archie, ORTT, Vice-Chancellor Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, Minister of Education, the Honorable Anthony Garcia, other ministers of government, our inductee, Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Campus Principal, St. Augustine Campus, Professor Brian Copeland and Mrs. Copeland, esteemed heads of missions and other members of the Diplomatic Corps, Mr. Robert Bermudez and Ms. Mirage, Chairman, Campus Council, Mr. Hewitt Williams, members of Parliament, other members of the UWI Senior Executive Management Team, Campus Executive Management, deans and other members of senior management and staff of the UWI St. Augustine campus, distinguished speakers, members of the private and public sectors, members of the media, and all our specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I bring greetings on behalf of the UWI Alumni Association, Trinidad and Tobago chapter, and indeed on behalf of all UWI alumni on this occasion of the induction of the principal of the St. Augustine campus, University of the West Indies. For us alumni, we are extremely pleased and quite proud that you, principal, come from within, from amongst our ranks, that you can identify with us as we can with you, or as members of our Tobago chapter, some of whom are present here, would say, you are wee boy. Because like all of us, you would have experienced all that our alma mater has had to offer, and we share similar hopes and aspirations for the furtherance of our beloved institution, the University of the West Indies. Principal, as UWI alumni, we are charged in our alumni pledge to keep the UWI, our UE, first in our hearts and first in our region. This is a charge we know that, like us, you take very seriously and would guard zealously. In keeping with and on closer examination of that charge, we in the alumni see the word first in our pledge as an acrostic symbolizing the following: F, focused. I, impactful. R, relevant. S, service-oriented. T, timely and trustworthy. These principles are the traits that we know as a dedicated alumnus will characterize your stewardship as head of this institution, and we in the alumni commit to standing with you, providing our full support to ensure that during your tenure, your vision for the furtherance of the St. Augustine campus, and by extension the University of the West Indies, is realized as you remain focused, impactful, relevant, service-oriented, timely, and trustworthy during your tenure. We extend our sincerest congratulations to you, Principal, and to your family, and wish you all God's richest blessings. I thank you.
President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, SC, ORTT, and Her Excellency Ramona Carmona, Chancellor Sir George Alleyne, the Honorable Chief Justice of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Justice Ivor Archie, ORTT, Vice-Chancellor Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, the Minister of Education, the Honorable Anthony Garcia, other Ministers of Government, our inductee, Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Campus Principal, St. Augustine Campus, Professor Brian Copeland and Mrs. Copeland, esteemed heads of mission and other members of the Diplomatic Corps, Chancellor-designate, Mr. Robert Bermudez and Ms. Bermudez, Chairman, Campus Council, Mr. Yort Williams, members of Parliament, other members of the UWI Senior Executive Management Team, Campus Executive Management Team, deans and other members of senior management and the staff of the UWI St. Augustine Campus, distinguished speakers, members of the private sector, members of the media, and all our specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The West Indies Group of University Teachers, WIGUT, heartily welcomes Professor Brian Copeland as the Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Campus Principal of the St. Augustine Campus of the University of the West Indies. For those who may not be fully cognizant of the who or what is WIGUT, we are the registered trade union representing the academic, senior administrative, and professional staff of the UWI. To that end, Professor Copeland remains a member of WIGUT. Since he remains a member of the academic staff, and if I may dare say, he remains a paying member of WIGUT. We take your dues still, sir. Although WIGUT is a trade union, we see ourselves as a partner with the university management in ensuring that the goals of the institution as they relate to our students, our society, our region, and indeed to the wider world, all of those goals are achieved. Accordingly, WIGUT has given and will continue to give critical support to the university and the campus management as our institution moves forward. But everything in this capitalistic world comes with a price. So that critical support comes with a price. And here I am not referring to the fact that we still have outstanding salary negotiations to conduct. Not referring to that, we'll deal with that at the right time and in the right place. nor with the vexing issue that we have at this time of the failure of the campus management to restore a senior common room. Rather, the price here I refer to relate to the values and the principles which underpin any civil society and institution. Here I wish to emphasize respect for traditions and values, for standards, for the maintenance of standards, for consultation, for fairness, for accountability and transparency, and the obligation to abide by the university regulations if we are to set an example for the wider society. Professor Copeland, even while he tenanted the corridors of power on Block 1 of engineering, advocated these principles and values. Now that he has migrated to the office of the campus principal, we expect from him that he will continue to uphold those principles and ensure, even more critically, that they are institutionalized within our university. In so doing, he, and in turn the campus, will continue to benefit from the tremendous goodwill that is exhibited by WIGOT members, and I dare say all staff of this campus. In closing, WIGOT reiterates its best wishes for the successful tenure as principal and its desire to work with him in a spirit of collaboration to ensure that the business of this institution is conducted honorably and efficiently. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen, and we sincerely appreciate your messages. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to crave your indulgence. Would it be okay if I ask those who, I think we have another 3 sets of persons bringing greetings. Would it be okay if they don't read the whole protocol list? So you know what you do. This instrument is called the Phi, and it's a percussive harmonic instrument. And I think the creator is our new principal. And we are going to invite Mr. Darren Shepherd to serenade us this evening on the Phi. Darren. Thank you, Darren. And I'm sure you would agree with me that the PHI, which is the brainchild, the creative genius, is Professor Copeland and the Steel Band Initiatives Project. It's a legacy that would endure and endure and endure. So we'd always have the PHI. And I think it's common knowledge too that in 2008, for this work, in creating this and the GPAN, Professor Copeland was awarded Trinidad's highest honor. Congrats, sir. We continue with our tributes, and we'd have Professor Diana Rainsing, one of our own, on loan to UTT. He's going to represent the tertiary level institutions in Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean. And he'd be followed by Mr. Jerry Brooks, one of our more prominent alum, and a distinguished captain of industry, and in his present capacity, he's the chairman of the National Gas Company. And then we come home, we start with one of our principals, Professor Eugene Barito, in that order. Gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Chair of this evening's proceedings. It was my intention to ask for apologies and throw protocol into the waste paper basket, but I was given permission. And it's only a moment ago I heard that I had to bring greetings on behalf of tertiary level institutions. I thought I was bringing greetings on behalf of the University of Trinidad and Tobago. But at moments like these, you have to switch your words to accommodate the greetings. It is indeed a great pleasure and an honor to be here with you to bring greetings and congratulations on behalf of, here's where I change, on behalf of tertiary level institutions, Trinidad and Tobago, and especially on behalf of the Board of Governors, staff and students, in fact, the entire UTT family, on the induction of Professor Brian Copeland as Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Campus Principal of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies. And on a more personal note, I am also very happy to be invited to say a few words at this function, since I received my tertiary level education right here at the St. Augustine campus, and also served as an academic staff member for more than 25 years, and many of these along with Professor Brian Copeland. Professor Copeland is a respected colleague who has worked tirelessly for the holistic advancement of Trinidad and Tobago and the region at large. This is evidenced by his pioneering and innovative work on the steel pan, the fry pan, but more so in his distinguished teaching and administrative career. Nurturing minds and changing lives through the medium of education was his mantra, or is his mantra, I should say. Professor Copeland, like all our tertiary education institutions, are firm believers that education is the foundation of an innovative society. Trinidad and Tobago in particular has made unparalleled strides in the tertiary sector, especially so in the past 2 decades. And we of the tertiary level institutions must build on these developments in the coming years to ensure a more systemic and fully integrated, work-relevant, present and future, entrepreneurial and responsive tertiary education system, one which anticipates the future, as the future must be our business, and that future is right now. Trinidad and Tobago, and indeed the Caribbean, is very fortunate to have someone of Professor Copeland's caliber who combines penetrating analytical ability, decisiveness with firmness, and a capacity for strong and clear-sighted leadership. Chancellor, UWI has chosen a person to lead the St. Augustine campus, one who motivates and energizes others, bringing them together in a common enterprise, and doing so with vivacity, resilience, great human warmth, and deeply human values. We of the tertiary level institutions hereby pledge our support to Professor Copeland and UWI, together with all tertiary education institutions, plus our stakeholders, both in the public sector and private sector, to enable further progress in tertiary education towards the common goal of sustainable economic and social development, leading to better quality of life for all our citizens, whether they are from the hills of Laventille or the plains of Caroni, from Charlottesville to Icarcus, or from Guyana in the south to Belize in the northwest. We of the tertiary level institutions pledge to work together towards a common virtual intellectual space in the Caribbean. Let this be the defining moment for it to happen. Then and only then can we achieve our strategic objectives, bearing in mind that diversity plus inclusion will lead to innovation. Let us make it happen. And just a few days ago, I saw a quotation from Mark Hopkins, and it's reminiscent of Professor Copeland, and I simply want to quote in closing. We are, and the tertiary level institutions believe in this, we are to regard the mind not as a piece of iron to be laid upon a piece of anvil and hammered into any shape, nor as a block of marble in which we are to find the statue by removing the rubbish, nor as a receptacle into which knowledge may be poured. We of the tertiary level institutions believe we are to regard the mind of our young people as a flame that is to be fed, as an active being that must be strengthened to think, to feel, to dare, to do, and to suffer. Thank you, Professor Copeland, and every success in every step.
Thank you, Chairman Will Lighton. All protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. You're sounding weak. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. You're sounding like the Jeepa now. It's a great honor to be invited to address you at the induction of Professor Brian Copeland as principal of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies. The assumption of higher responsibility by one who has distinguished himself as a visionary, thinker, an innovator, and a team builder is a source of special pride and cause for optimism in the future of the university. Given the development challenges facing Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean, his appointment to the helm of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies could not be more opportune. In Professor Copeland, the UWI has found a respected scholar, an effective administrator, and a leader in whom the arts and sciences converge. He's an internationally recognized and respected engineer. His pioneering achievements include the patented development of the Japan, which serenaded us a couple of minutes ago, and did it not sound beautiful? And for which he has received the country's highest award. Let us congratulate Professor Copeland. Professor Copeland's career underscores his belief in technological innovation as a powerful platform for creating new areas of enterprise and entrepreneurship, which can and must fuel economic diversification and national development. This is a philosophy to which the National Gas Company is fully aligned and to which it has committed substantial financial support over the years. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, over the last 2 decades, our contribution has exceeded 20 million in the form of research grants, academic program support, bursaries, and scholarships. We are particularly proud of our chair in innovation and entrepreneurship, our contribution to the Trevor Boop Singh Endowment Fund, and our work in engineering. We are committed to working with the UWI to leverage these investments to make a transformative change in local entrepreneurship and innovation, something around which Professor Copeland is particularly passionate. Professor Copeland, the NGC-UWI relationship must continue to be predicated on a shared vision and mutual understanding of the importance of strong linkages between industry and academia. Research, training, and applied knowledge are integral pillars of and pathways to individual accomplishment and industry and societal development. This crucial linkage must express itself in the acceleration of research and development on themes such as monetization of marginal gas fields, renewable energy projects, including solar and wind programs, and energy efficiency. We also welcome the UWI's partnership as we explore opportunities in Ghana, Guyana, Cuba, and other international jurisdictions. We are stronger together. We are stronger together. And NGC looks forward to deepening and cementing our legacy in energy through this partnership. This induction is also a source of personal pride as a former student, tutor, lecturer, and distinguished alumnus of the university. Indeed, for many others on our board, the NGC-UWI relationship goes beyond an academic and professional affiliation. It is a relationship in which we are highly invested. We are products of the university and share its vision to actively drive Trinidad and Tobago's development and change the trajectory. Therefore, Professor Copeland, be assured that as the battle changes hands, it is a race that we will run together. As we at the NGC are committed to a closer collaboration and a stronger partnership with the university. We at NGC wish you continued success, and may your legacy be defined by clarity of vision, courage, and positive transformative change both UWI and our society required. On behalf of our private sector, on behalf of the energy sector, we wish you deepest congratulations and God's richest blessings. Thank you very much.
President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Anthony Carmona and Mrs. Rima Carmona, the Honorable Chief Justice of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Justice Ivor Archie, Chancellor Sir George Allen, Vice-Chancellor Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, Chancellor-designate Mr. Robert Bermudez and Mrs. Ushna Rani Maraj, Minister of Education, the Honorable Anthony Garcia, and other ministers of government, the inductee Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Principal, Professor Brian Copeland, Mrs. Copeland, their son and daughter, and his two sisters, other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the internet audience, good evening. Chancellor, on behalf of the courageous Caville campus, located in beautiful Barbados, I am delighted to deliver gracious greetings to Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Professor Brian Russell Nigel Copeland, on his induction as the 9th principal of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies. My fellow principal occupies the leadership of this venerable institution, girded by 3 engineering degrees and a wealth of academic, administrative, industrial, and innovative experience. Most fittingly, Chancellor, his first-class honors in electrical engineering from this campus served as the conduit for a master's from the University of Toronto and a PhD from the University of Southern California. Chancellor, the titles of his master's and PhD theses provide clues to the leadership focus and style of this man. He mastered, and I quote, multi-loop robust control systems design. And he successfully defended and dissected, again I quote, cheap and singular H2 and H-infinity control problems, a generalized eigenproblem approach. Chancellor, as a social scientist, I will not linger on the erudite, electrifying engineering knowledge these studies convey. I am much more fascinated with the prescience of his key words. These are singular, cheap, control, robust, and multi-loop. It seems as if in gaining his graduate degrees in 1981 and 1990, the latter part of the 20th century, Professor Copeland had some anticipation of the course of events that would facilitate his journey to today, to this evening. There must have been some divine omniscience at play in his engineering knowledge production process that would have predisposed him to select terms, every one of which will feature in his leadership of the St. Augustine campus in the early 21st century. Chancellor, I do not know if, like one of my favorite Trinidadian philosophers, he was already experiencing the baseman in his head. We do know how Professor Copeland didn't go and plant peas in Tobago, but instead, Pim Pom decided to cultivate minds for the Republic and the region. And as Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, he has graduated hundreds of undergraduate and graduate men and women to prove it. Yet, some foreknowledge of events must have warned him that he would be principal at a time of austerity with the need for heightened efficiency. So even though he don't want to dance, and while we would never associate cheap with the high quality of a UWI education, Principal Copeland has to do the multi-loop corporate prance and ensure education at the St. Augustine campus remains affordable and accessible. Chancellor, we fully expect PVC Copeland to display exceptional leadership. Nothing less is required for a multi-site campus of 17,500 plus students serving the higher education human resource needs of a sophisticated, vibrant society. The engineer in this principle will witness a clinical managing of the campus's complex environment and a masterful control of potential adversities. And Chancellor, you may ask, why can I be so confident of the robust and innovative character of Professor Copeland's leadership? Well, Chancellor, my answer is easy. The baseman has indeed taken up residence in Professor Copeland's head. And unlike the mighty shadow who tried unsuccessfully to expel him, my fellow principal welcomed him in, allowed him to do his thing. He listened to the baseman, and together they gave us the fusion of electrical and computer engineering in steel pan technology. They pulled some notes. They pulled some notes together, and the next thing we knew, we had the innovation and syncopation of the extremely versatile G-Pan, Pim Pom. So Principal Copeland, the Cavell campus and I join in saluting you. We will watch you achieve the heights of campus harmony in the music of your leadership. We know you are unafraid of the mental fortitude required for this remarkable journey, and we congratulate you on this joyous occasion. We celebrate your formal assumption of office, and we look forward with anticipation to see the unfolding of your leadership of innovation and imagination. I wish you a very successful tenure, Principal Copeland, one that will be singularly marked by wisdom and discernment. Welcome, Pro Vice-Chancellor and Principal Bryan. I look forward to working with you to advance the UWI's mission and vision. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you, Professor Barito. And the reception, the applause tells you how well you were received. When we inducted Principal Longsworth, Principal Barito did as creative a weaving as she did this evening. So it's her specialty. Mr. Brooks, we'd like to thank you for your strong endorsement of the ties between the academy and industry. And I just share with you that under our leadership of our distinguished Vice-Chancellor, our new strategic plan under the AAA framework, one of the A's is alignment, and he has even appointed a Pro Vice-Chancellor to drive that alignment between industry and the academy. So we would certainly look forward to deepening the relationship and work with NGC and the rest of our industrial community. And Daya, thanks for your kind words, and we would continue to collaborate, as we must. We're going to have some more of the pie, and this time we'll be serenaded by Mr. Darren Ellis. Darren? a demonstration of his dexterity and the versatility of the pen. Please give him another round of applause. Our final set of greetings would come in this order. Professor and Principal Archie MacDonald from the Mona campus, and he'd be followed by Principal Longsworth from the Open campus, and Mr. Hewitt Williams, our campus council chair, would follow her, and bringing up the final greeting would be the Honorable Minister of Education, Mr. Anthony Garcia. Professor MacDonald.
President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, and Her Excellency Rima Carmona, the Honorable Chief Justice of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Justice Ivor Archie, Chancellor Sir George Lane, and Chancellor-designate Mr. Robert Bermudez, Vice-Chancellor Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, Minister of Education, the Honorable Anthony Garcia, and other honorable ministers and members of Parliament, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. On behalf of the University of the West Indies Mona Campuses community, it is my distinct honor to formally congratulate Professor Brian Copeland on his induction as Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Principal of UWI's St. Augustine campus. This is indeed an extraordinary honor for our community to welcome such a distinguished academic who has dedicated his life's work to building the teaching and learning infrastructure of the St. Augustine campus. Professor Copeland follows in the footsteps of predecessors who have made significant contributions to transforming the St. Augustine campus into the world-class institution it is today. A journey that I'm positive he will continue to make great gains on during his tenure as its due Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Principal. As a former Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, the head of the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, and a leading figure in electrical and engineering design, research and teaching, Professor Copeland possesses the professional aptitude to translate his success in these positions into new opportunities for growth and development for the St. Augustine campus. He has certainly proven himself over the years as a leader of integrity with high standards who has always been able to build and drive his team towards success. His work over the years has helped to transform the Faculty of Engineering into the standard bearer in engineering research and tutelage, and these academic contributions to the field of engineering have certainly aided in enhancing the academic profile of the St. Augustine campus. It therefore goes without saying that the UWI is indeed fortunate to be able to have him assume the reins of leadership for the St. Augustine campus and channel his many accomplishments, knowledge, and leadership abilities into opportunities for growth and improvement for our entire academic community. Professor Copeland, as you embark on this journey, my advice to you would be to remain committed to your extraordinary and diverse staff team, as they will be the key to any success achieved on this campus. Leadership at times will be difficult, but always remain committed to our ultimate goal, which is to provide our Caribbean society with the first-class tertiary education that it deserves. As principal of the Mona campus, I look forward to working with you, Professor Copeland, in our continued journey into ensuring that the UWI remains the premier higher learning institution of the Caribbean and takes its place as one of the leading universities in the world. Professor Copeland, on behalf of the Mona campus, I extend my warmest congratulations on your induction as the St. Augustine campus's new Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Principal. And as your colleague, I wish you every success in your new position. Thank you.
President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Anthony Carmona and Her Excellency Rima Carmona, Honorable Chief Justice of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Justice Ivor Archie, Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, Chancellor-Designate, Mr. Robert Bermudez and Ms. Usha Maraj, Minister of Education, the Honorable Anthony Garcia, and other ministers of government, our inductee, of course, Professor Brian Copeland, Mrs. Copeland, and the family. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening or afternoon. It's evening, thank you. It is with a special delight that I bring greetings to our colleague, Professor Brian Copeland, from the staff and students of the University of the West Indies Open Campus. Our two campuses have a long association. The former extramural department, then renamed the School of Continuing Studies, which then became a part of the Open Campus, has partnered for more than 50 years with the St. Augustine campus in developing a pipeline of non-traditional students who have over the years matriculated from pre-university and continuing education programs into more formal programs. So we have a very long, long relationship. However, my first interaction with Professor Copeland was as a member of the powerful Committee of Deans, where we both served together for 4 years, and he was chairman, I believe, for 2 terms. His own innovative DNA, his openness to change and thinking differently, led to many conversations about collaboration between the Faculty of Engineering and the Open Campus regionally. We exchanged views on articulation with colleges in the region, the intersection of higher education with technical and vocational education and training, the powerful future of online learning, and the transformational role of this methodology. Always a futurist, Professor Copeland recognized the importance of these areas, a recognition which was not that widespread 9 years ago. Happily, under the UE's 2017 to 2022 AAA strategic plan, all of these ideas that nearly 10 years ago Professor Copeland shared with me are now in our collective hands to be implemented. At a recent university-wide retreat, where has he disappeared to? While I found out, at a recent university-wide retreat, I found out that we both joined the UWI in the same decade, different parts of the decade. And here we are today, the 2 newest principals of the university that nurtured us and that we both love very much. To my fellow principal and fellow new kid on the block, I wish for you a successful tenure and assure you of our continued collaboration with you and the St. Augustine campus, particularly in expanding access to the people of Trinidad and Tobago and the region. The organizational theorist Henry Mintzberg compares an organization to an orchestra, where the leader, as conductor, understands that each player in the orchestra is a leader of his or her own instrument. So, Vice-Chancellor, as conductor of the UE Orchestra, you can now be certain of one thing, that we now have a panman as part of our orchestra, par excellence, as we percuss the region's needs for development. Principal Copeland, without doubt, we know that under your leadership, there will be sweet music coming out of St. Augustine campus. I thank you.
President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, and Her Excellency Rima Carmona, the Honorable Chief Justice of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Justice Ivor Archie, Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, Chancellor-designate Mr. Robert Bermudez and Ms. Rani Maraj, Minister of Education, the Honorable Anthony Garcia, other ministers of government, the principal designate, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the St. Augustine Campus Council, I bring greetings or sincere congratulations and very best wishes to Principal Brian Copeland as he formally assumes the mantle of leadership of our esteemed campus. This ceremony fills me with two main emotions. On the one hand, the solemnity of the proceedings is a reminder of the awesome responsibilities that the principal bears for our community of students and teachers, and for the campus's obligations to our home and regional constituencies whose interests we are mandated to serve. On the other hand, it's a time for celebration as we are reminded of the rich history of our campus and rejoice with satisfaction that its future has been placed in capable and deserving hands. At the risk of repeating these accolades, Principal Copeland, whose installation we celebrate today, possesses impeccable academic credentials, proven leadership ability, and is well known for his commitment to excellence, his student-centeredness, and above all, an unimpeachable integrity. That's a small difference, I guess. As luck would have it, our host country, as well as the entire region, faces the acute challenge of revitalizing economic development and addressing some of the social consequences that go with poverty and underdevelopment. The Campus Council is confident that Principal Copeland is supremely qualified and totally committed to lead the campus in an intensified effort at confronting and resolving these issues. The Campus Council would like to pledge our full support to our new principal and to affirm our willingness to be engaged and to provide whatever assistance we are qualified to give. Again, our sincere congratulations to Principal Brian Copeland and our very best wishes for the future. Thank you.
the protocol list having been established, and as suggested by our chairman, I move on. I bring greetings from the Ministry of Education and the Government of Trinidad and Tobago on the occasion of the 9th induction of the principal of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies, Professor Brian Copeland. This is a solemn ceremony, the induction of someone to a high position, but more importantly, from the Ministry of Education's point of view, we are here to celebrate someone who has dedicated virtually his entire working life to the teaching profession, an educator par excellence. Professor Copeland has served the teaching profession at different levels and in diverse ways. As a research assistant in the Faculty of Engineering of UWI, a teaching assistant at the University of Toronto and the University of Southern California, and of course, moving up the academic ladder at UWI as lecturer, senior lecturer, and a professor in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. We know of the many achievements of Professor Copeland as an engineer, researcher, inventor and innovator, and an administrator at the University of the West Indies. You have heard of his research, his publications, his discoveries, patents, and developments. We know about his headship and the deanship, but as I said before, it is his achievement as an educator on which I wish to focus, and the time allotted to me allows for only a snippet of his achievements in this area. Professor Copeland introduced many innovations in teaching in his department and the Faculty of Engineering at the University of the West Indies, involving digital technology. He was responsible for the introduction of new programs such as the Master of Applied Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering, with majors in 5 areas, and a system that effectively treated with the high attrition rate of the older MSc programs. He was instrumental in the development of the pre-engineering program in order to give students a second chance to qualify for entry into the Faculty of Engineering. He has also assisted in the development of programs and courses at UWI Mona campus in Jamaica. In addition to his regular teaching and administrative assignments in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, Professor Copeland participated in several workshops, seminars, conferences, and delivered professional development short courses throughout his career. As dean, although it was a full-time administrative job, he did not give up teaching and supervising students. Professor Copeland has served UWI and the country in many committees and boards, utilizing his skills and vast experience as an educator. He was on the board of directors of ETEC, the Caribbean Industrial Research Institute, Caribbean, and chairman of the National Training Agency. He also played a significant role in the cabinet-appointed Committee on National Policy on the Development of Tertiary Education, Training and Distance and Lifelong Learning that produced a national white paper. One cannot speak about Professor Copeland without mentioning the steel pan. His involvement is well known in the development of the G-pan and the phi, not the 21st letter of the Greek alphabet. He was a key member of the committee of the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards, dealing with several aspects of the steel pan, but his contribution is not as well known outside of the Faculty of Engineering to the development of a laboratory dedicated to the study of pan and courses in acoustics and the steel pan technology. I wish to give my assurance to Professor Copeland that the Ministry of Education and the Government of Trinidad and Tobago will continue to work with you as we chart the way forward during your tenure as principal of the St. Augustine campus. As a proud graduate myself of this august institution and an educator for almost my entire working life, I feel a bond between us. And as the Master said in Matthew chapter 25, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I'll put you in charge of many." Congratulations, Professor, and best wishes.
Thank you kindly, Minister. Thank you, Campus Council Chair. Thank you, Principal Longworth. Thank you, Principal MacDonald. And thank you, our 6 other colleagues who brought greetings before. We've come to that juncture now, which I think is the highlight of this evening's proceedings, where we would formally invite the Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, and Chancellor to formally officiate as we induct Principal Brian Copeland. Principal? Principal?
As I was reflecting upon how best to historicize this moment, given my discipline, I thought this year, 2017, is the centenary of the Russian Revolution, but I note that there are no celebrations in Moscow. But this year, 2017, is also the centenary of the abolition of indentureship. This year, 2017, is the year in which all of our peoples of Indian descent were emancipated from servitude. So this year, 2017, completes the process of freedom in the Caribbean. It is therefore within this background and context that we are inducting our principal. So going forward, he will be known as the principal who was inducted during the centenary of the abolition of indentured servitude. I will now call upon the Chancellor to cap our principal.
Please come there to me, Brian. Although protocol has been established, I would still wish to greet His Excellency, President Anthony Carmona, and Her Excellency Ms. Rima Carmona, the Honorable Chief Justice, our Vice-Chancellor, Minister of Education, other ministers of government, colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me thank you for coming to this formal ceremony for the induction of Professor Brian Copeland as the 9th principal of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies. I thank all those who spoke before for their offers of support, and I associate myself with the many encomiums heaped on Professor Copeland. Let me give a special welcome to Mr. Robert Bermudez, who will assume the office of Chancellor in 8 days. And Ms. Mirage, I'm sure you all join with me in wishing him a happy and productive term of office. All university ceremonies of this nature are special to me. I believe in these rituals. But this is particularly so because it is my last such. And the special significance also relates to this place, because St. Augustine has always been very dear to me. I greet and I make my obeisance to the mighty saman trees which I've seen and heard so much. I admire the lawns, and I hope that we keep as much of them as possible. Because after all, they are the lungs through which this campus breathes. But it's also special because when I'm here, as the psalmist says, I raise mine eyes to the hills, and I see the Abbey of Our Lady of Exile nestled in the hills around Mount St. Benedict. And I remember the rule, listen carefully, my child, to the master's instructions, and attend to them with the ear of your heart. And if I listen really carefully, I can hear the monks professing some of those instructions which are the core values of your own patron saint, St. Augustine, the values of love, humility, freedom, community, service, and friendship. And I think how relevant all this is to an institution charged with trafficking in knowledge and molding the young and parsing for them the language of literature and learning. And over the years, I've seen St. Augustine's values, to less or greater degree, play out in tertiary education throughout the world. And sometimes I wonder if the preservation of those values runs counter to the pressure for the commodification of knowledge and belief that everything we do in the academy is grist for the market. But enough of speculation this evening. Those of you who are old enough will remember Kool and the gang, who in 1980 says, it's celebration time. It's celebration time, come on. It's celebration time, come on. Professor Copeland, I confess I was pleased with your appointment to the post of principal of this campus because of the commendable balance and sagacity you have demonstrated in the multiple areas that are so critical for the sustainability of our enterprise. I know that you are well versed in the affairs of this campus and our university. You have, in an academic sense, as we've heard, grown up here, and you have lived with the rhythms of birdsong in your ears. You have known the trials and tribulations which are part and parcel of administration, and you have demonstrated by word and deed that you understand very well that the knowledge-creating function of the academy need not be pursued and marketed to the detriment of its other pristine functions. And you will now have the opportunity to use all the skills you have acquired to guide this large campus through the changes that are an ineluctable part of vibrant growth. And you'll be able to play your part secure in the knowledge that the center can and will hold, and things will not fall apart. I wish you well, and I join with the assembled company in praying that you'll be given the strength, wisdom, and constancy of purpose to guide the affairs of this campus aright to your own satisfaction, and to the benefit of the people of Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean, and to the benefit benefit of the University of the West Indies. And now, by the authority attendant on my office, I have pleasure in placing on your head this mortarboard, which completes the academic dress that is an official and formal symbol of your office. My sincere congratulations. Now we'll invite Professor Copeland to address the company.
Always wanted to do that. I will thank you, Chancellor, and you'll hear more thanks in a bit. I will have to stick to the protocol and say hello to, these are not tears, they're just a slight allergy. To President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, and Her Excellency Rima Carmona, the Honorable Chief Justice of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Justice Ivor Archie, who I in fact shared some time with here at the University of the West Indies, Chancellor Sir George Allen, Vice-Chancellor Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, Chancellor-designate Mr. Robert Bermudez and Mrs. Usha Rani Maraj, Minister of Education, the Honorable Anthony Garcia, and other ministers of government who are here today. I thank you for coming. Minister in particular, because I've worked with Minister of Community Development, Culture and Arts, Minister in the Ministry of Labor, Minister of Health, the Honorable Terence Dayal Singh, Minister in the Ministry of Education, Dr. the Honorable Lovell Francis. I nearly called my own name there. Esteemed heads of missions and other members of the Diplomatic Corps, Chairman Campus Council, Mr. Ewart Williams, thank you. And Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Campus Principal of Cave Hill, Professor Eudine Barreto, Pimpam, thank you. Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Campus Principal of Mona Campus, Professor Archibald MacDonald, Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Campus Principal, Open Campus, Dr. Luz Longsworth, Deputy Campus Principal, Professor Rhoda Reddock, and our PVCs who are here today, PVC Alan Cobley and PVC Dale Weber, University Registrar, and University Bursar, Ms. Andrea McNeish. I'd like to thank you for listening to my speech tonight. And now I go to my second list. I'd like to say a special welcome to family and friends. And let me especially welcome my wife, Mrs. Priska Massey Copeland. And my daughter, Kathy. I bought the shotgun when she was born. And son, Keenan, who interrupted his business trip to Mexico to be here today. I also welcome my sisters, Jasmine Copeland and Sharon McIntosh, who are sitting there on the left. And though they're not here, I'd like to say hello to my brother, Baden Copeland, who in fact designed the logo, the symbol that you saw in all the invitations. He couldn't leave his job. He's manager of the Maps Department at New York Times. Good evening, everybody. Let me start by conveying a warm welcome to everyone again. I've been saying how grateful I am for the kind words and expressions of confidence from my colleague, principals, peers, colleagues, and stakeholders. Thank you all for joining me today at this induction ceremony, one that formally marks my appointment as campus principal of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies. I would also like to publicly thank the Chancellor, Sir George Allen, the Vice-Chancellor, Sir Hilary Beckles, and the University Council for their confidence in asking me to assume leadership of the UE St. Augustine campus. Now, those who know me are aware that I'm not a person who likes to stand on ceremony. However, I appreciate the fact that this induction ceremony is a reminder of the rich history and tradition of the University of the West Indies, established by Royal Charter in 1948 as a college of the University of London and maturing to the fully fledged institution it is today. The university will be 70 years old next year. Armchair historians such as myself will take more than a passing interest in the fact that the 3 charters that map the birth and growth of the UWI are listed on the UK Privy Council website, along with all other UK charters going back to the very first that established the University of Cambridge in 1231. So I'm told that these installation addresses are for the world to learn about the new principal and to get a glimpse of the path the university will traverse during their stewardship. As such, I would like to show how my life's journey has influenced the vision I've been sharing with UE colleagues for the past year. You've heard snippets before. I'll give you the full course. So I was born on St. Vincent Street in the lovely southern city of San Fernando. My parents were Ellingsworth Copeland, better known as Mac Copeland, and Eugene Ford Copeland, may they rest in peace. My father ended his long career as a fire officer, as Chief of Fire Services. My mother was a nurse who spent her years at the San Fernando General Hospital, eventually retiring as junior matron. My father was also a carnival band leader of no small acclaim, having won Band of the Year in San Fernando for 5 consecutive years. I have yet to hear anyone dispute his claim that he pioneered the use of these enormous costumes that are now commonplace. He claims to be the first. Claimed to be the first. In those early years, our home was his band headquarters, or Mass Campus, Trinbagonians call it. So as a child, I saw vignettes of the early civilizations of Central and South America, native North Americans, the Vikings, the court of Queen Elizabeth I, the tribes of Africa, creatures and characters from Greek mythology, and the Assyrian Empire of King Nebuchadnezzar. They all came to life before my fascinated eyes. I saw their iconic shapes crafted out of wire and steel, wood, cloth, sequins, hammered copper and aluminum, paper and papier-mâché. I saw art transformed from my father's Egyptian-like drawings to fully animated real-life 3D works. So one can begin to understand who I am by imagining the impact of this rich experience on a boy still of primary school age. Until about 7 years ago, I really did not fully appreciate the impact of those early years on my being. I've always considered myself a Caribbean man born on the island of Trinidad. Perhaps that perspective was a result of the fact that my mother and her mother who lived with us were Barbadians who migrated to Trinidad and Tobago towards the end of the Second World War. Ours was a home that was constantly filled with visiting Bajan relatives and acquaintances. Whatever the reason, I am fiercely Caribbean at heart. I still feel extreme anguish at the collapse of the Federation and remain hopelessly optimistic that one day, despite the increasing separation, Caribbean nations will unite under a common flag. All logic supports the creation of this imaginary state that I have taken the liberty of calling Caribbean. And this Caribbean would leverage its greater size to build a greater life for its people. The UWI, with its 4 campuses spread throughout the Caribbean, is critical in the achievement of this still elusive goal. My parents, like many at that time, believed in the power of education and ensured that their children had a good educational foundation. My schooling started at the relatively new Koke Village Primary School, from which I earned one of the exhibition awards to attend Presentation College in San Fernando. You can clap for that one. My high school career culminated in a National Scholarship Award in 1974. During those years, I started to dabble in electronics and began a career as a DJ. Party Heat Incorporated. These hobbies fueled the transition of my interest from medicine to physics and electrical engineering. I worked for a year at the college teaching maths to the lower forms. Some of my students are in fact in here today. My income, along with the scholarship support, allowed me to relieve my parents of further financial investments in my studies when I started my BSc in electrical engineering at this university in 1975. I graduated from that program with first-class honors on top of the graduating class in 1978. I then worked a year as a teaching assistant before taking up a UE sponsorship to study for a Master of Applied Science at the University of Toronto. That sponsorship was the first of its kind, the idea of then department head Professor Sinclair King. Funding was sourced from a vacancy in the department, which he felt was far better utilized for foreign training of top regional graduates than for hiring another foreign lecturer. At UFT, I truly began to appreciate the reputation and quality of the UWI. My UE BSc program prepared me extremely well for the challenge of studying at a university that justifiably considered itself one of the Ivy Leagues of North America. This was in no small part due to the guidance and mentorship of the likes of Professors Emeriti Ken Julian, Sinclair King, and Harold Ramkisoon. I took great pride in the fact that Professor Davison, my MASc project supervisor, a luminary in my chosen field of dynamic control systems, UDIN, used some of our work in his consultancy for the control system for the Canadarm, which was used on the space shuttle. This came as adequate compensation for my long-abandoned dream of being an astronaut. Upon my return from Toronto, I worked as a lecturer for UE for 6 years, all the while trying to decide on whether to move on to a PhD or to do another master's degree, an approach that I felt was more applicable to the Caribbean because of the broader exposure it afforded. But I eventually decided to head for the University of Southern California in South Central LA with my family, where I took up a LASPAW Fulbright scholarship to read for a PhD. We left Los Angeles in 1990, returning home in the midst of the attempted coup, and 2 years before the first riots of the South Central District, the so-called Rodney King riots. Throughout this time, my life was being shaped by spurts of social and industrial unrest. This started with the 1970 Black Power Revolution, which prepared me for the racism I met abroad, the 1975 Bloody Tuesday industrial unrest, and the long drawn-out McEvoy strike in 1976 at UE that put a painful end to my education in electronics, my originally intended area of specialization. But I was not always an observer of these occurrences. As a conscious Trini, I took part in student marches in Toronto against the city's granting of an application by the Ku Klux Klan to set up a branch in that great city. Well, we lost the petition. However, I seem to recall a very humorous report in the Toronto Star that the first person to show up to apply for membership in the KKK was a black man. My teaching, research, and outreach span several areas. My postgraduate studies and early research was in dynamic systems control, as you've heard, an area that uses mathematical behavioral models for vehicles and chemical reactions and even biological or economic systems to control the behavior of these systems. We control everything. Along the way, I transitioned to teaching and research in digital electronics, systems design, an area in which I really had little formal training, but which I had to learn in a few short months before my first postdoctoral teaching stint. This was prompted by a shortage of staff with the required background and qualifications. But I did well enough to lead in establishing an extremely strong digital electronics program thread in the department. Friends, I felt a growing discomfort following my MASc degree award. And that discomfort was with the traditional life of the academic and its apparent misalignment with industrial practice. Comfort levels increased when I started to work on the design of electric steel pans. It's not on display here today. This was in the 1980s and the 1990s. And these pans were for the amplification of sound without microphones. This R&D effort was supported in the early days by a grant from the Carib Tokyo Steel Orchestra. My discomfort was further placated when I rejoined the department after my PhD studies and became affiliated with a new group called the Real-Time System Group, which I'll call RTSG, that was led again by Professor Sinclair King. This was UWI's first endeavor at a university industry interface unit, through which expertise was accessed for projects that would have otherwise gone to foreign consultants. The projects that I led or co-led under the RTSG, and of which I'm particularly proud, include the design and construction of the first electronic scoreboard at the Queen's Park Oval, the design and construction of an energy monitoring system for the steel company ISPAT, and the design of an offshore remote data acquisition system for oil company Trinmar. Let no one again tell you that UWI is an ivory tower. My experiences in the RTSG team were in stark contrast to the traditional life of a university academic and its relevance when the university is, as is the UWI, situated in a developing country. As academics, we were expected to follow the pattern established in the developed world of research for publication. The publish or perish paradigm was and still is sacrosanct for UWI staff. I saw the almost exclusive focus on research for publication, driven by the UWI assessment and promotion system, as quite often of singular value and applicability extra-regionally, and a self-serving paradigm funded by the region's taxpayers. I hasten to add, before I'm clobbered by my colleagues next week, that this perspective applied primarily to engineering and science. Medical science research, for example, focuses on human affliction and therefore has an inbuilt high level of relevance. I question this intense intellectual efforts of my PhD and MSc studies and their direct impact on and contributions to the needs of the nation and of the region. No industry or consultancy firm, for example, was the least bit interested in my PhD and MASc studies in H2 and H-infinity optimal control. If nothing else, these postgraduate experiences, though, facilitated my critical insight, analysis, and assessment. I have to stick a penny and say that I learned so much in doing that PhD program. I was able to apply it in many different fields. It gave me a total view of systems, of interactions, even of people that I was able to apply, and knowledge I was able to pass on to my students. A PH means philosophy. That's what I did. New technology would be adopted by industry only if appropriately packaged for application by a reputable foreign supplier. My work, as advanced and as current as it was in the developed world, was irrelevant to and too far advanced for national development. While I picked up some important tools in my postgraduate studies, I realized that for my own peace of mind, I had to counter this misalignment and to switch focus. So based on our shared experiences and discussions at RTSG, we were finally able to discover the appropriate context for Caribbean research. We came to realize that in developed nations, whether through serendipity or deliberate intent, there is a wealth generation system that ensures, in the specific case of product or process innovation, for example, that new concepts rooted in cutting-edge research results are developed and nurtured to the stage of commercialization. Part of the resulting profits are reinvested to complete the cycle of knowledge creation and commercialization. In the US, this accounts for 4% of GDP. In other words, the human capital that produces the research is a return to the economy that contributes to national development. In short, research for publication activity that we myopically adopted as a university paradigm was a critical part of the wealth creation engine of developed nations. I realized as well that many in the developed nations do not see the big picture themselves, at least not at that time. But from the plethora of research papers, blogs, and reports on the topic today, this is no longer the case. In developing nations, however, a gap exists in this wealth generation model. Product and process creation and development are non-existent or minimal. Knowledge output at the universities freely enters the public domain via academic journals, thus contributing to the global store of knowledge. This feeds the wealth generation engines of more developed countries at the expense of local taxpayers. Furthermore, in the developing world, production systems and products for commerce and the associated knowledge or IP are predominantly imported. Despite our past economic successes in Caribbean, this gap defines us as developing nations. It makes us vulnerable to world economic upheavals. It robs us of much needed foreign exchange. It deprives us of I need some water. One sip. Thank you. It deprives us of job opportunities for our citizens, and as it represents poor economic sustainability, places us on a path whose endpoint is not too far from economic and social collapse. As one who espoused this need for research to be relevant to national development, I strengthened my activities in steel pan technology, leading ultimately to my more recent work that has been widely publicized over the past 10 years. My work on the steel pan came to a head with the establishment of the Steel Pan Initiatives Project. We call it SIP, some people call it SIP, and this was in December 2005. It was through a funding grant from the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The project was commissioned to develop a tenor pan fabricated with what's known as a spiderweb design, to accommodate a wider range of notes, to improve upon its charm, to make for a more compact orchestra, and to patent the new instrument in the name of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. The project was to be conducted under the strictest confidentiality. The instrument was named the Genesis Pan or the G-Pan. Its development was probably Trinidad and Tobago's best-kept secret, with a confidentiality component assured by expanding the funding provided to cover the various projects already well underway at the Steel Pan Development Laboratory in the Faculty of Engineering. These projects included the MIDI pan, which was later renamed the Percussive Harmonic Instrument, or PHI, and the RoboPan, which you might think of as a reverse PHI, which is a traditional steel pan rigged to be played by a computer. It worked. Not sellable, but it worked. The G-Pan was officially launched on July 14, 2007 at the UEJFK Quadrangle, with first patent filings just the day before. We should therefore raise an early 10th birthday toast to the G-Pan in the reception that follows. For those who may not know, the G-Pan is used exclusively in the National Steel Symphony Orchestra, which has performed on the international stage and to loud acclaim. Inspired by the traditional tenor pan, the PHI, with its 36 notes, is a MIDI-compatible musical instrument. MIDI allows it to communicate in a network of other electronic instruments and computers. It was conceived by myself and co-inventors Keith Maynard, Earl Phillip, Marcel Barron, for panists to capitalize on the unique kinesthetic of performance to produce tones of instruments other than the steel pan. So you may have heard tonight pianos, xylophones, and guitars. It's basically a synthesizer in pan form. The musical fourths and fifths note layout first applied to the traditional tenor by UWI honorary graduate Anthony Williams facilitates a short learning curve for capable musicians who are not panists. Overall, the PHI is a powerful tool for percussionists and general musicians everywhere. The inclusion of the PHI in the Nicki Minaj YouTube video, Pound the Alarm, recorded in Trinidad and Tobago in 2012, was a significant achievement in the PHI marketing campaign, significantly because it was free. That video has now accumulated over 200 million views. I was tempted to play the video for you, but those who know Nicki Minaj videos, I say no more. It's really not for the faint-hearted. We'll need ambulances lined up outside. Work on the FI was deliberately constrained so as to focus on GPAN development. It was first revealed to the public without much fanfare, following its first patent filing in October of 2008. It is currently used by a range of beta testers, including Darren Shepard and Darren Ellis, who you heard perform earlier, as well as Arima band Rhapsody NG, who will entertain you at the reception. The government's interest in the Steel Pan Initiatives project was solely focused on the GPAN. However, I saw the SIP as part of a greater strategy to entrench Trinidad and Tobago as the unquestionable leader in the global steel pan industry through aggressive research, development, and innovation of steel pan technology. I saw steel pan as the cornerstone of a new culture that would focus on innovation-led entrepreneurship in Trinidad and Tobago. Germane to this vision are the facts that the steel pan is 70 years old, and that the first concept for the FI dates back, get this, to 1985. Both are yet to realize their full market potential. Friends, this is a measure of where we are on the innovation scale. I am hopeful that given the renewed focus on innovation as an element of the current government's national development strategy, some consideration will be given to the steel pan industry as an opportunity for economic diversification. FI market entry was abruptly halted by court action against the inventors for ownership of its core patent. That action ended in mediation and the transfer of ownership to the UWI. This delay has brought a higher cost for market entry to Trinidad and Tobago's first technology product. Together with the disbanding of the team of young graduates who have been working on the creation of St. Augustine's first high-tech startup. Research at UE was indefinitely suspended, moving the epicenter of steel pan research to France. The irony for me is that had this not occurred when it did, UE and by extension the country would have been further down the path to diversification. Public good, the ultimate aim of all law, was compromised. Thankfully, the Steel Pan Initiatives project brought some unanticipated but welcome benefits. Firstly, it acted as a catalyst in the sensitization of the nation to the importance of innovation and intellectual property protection. Further, two of the FI team members have formed their own startups. I proudly speak here of David Chow, who programmed and crafted the tones used on the FI, and who started Induction, a company that sells high-quality sampled tones of local instruments for use on all forms of MIDI instruments. Induction sells on iTunes. Their most recent product provides samples of the instruments used by the Laventil Rhythm sound section. So I don't know if you know what this means. It means that a keyboardist with a MIDI-compatible instrument in Kazakhstan could download samples and play all the tunes of the Laventil Rhythm sound section. Apparently, it's one of his most popular products. Last but not least, I'd like to recognize Mr. Jivan Prasad, who started the company Fasove, which provides product design services to individuals seeking to advance their ventures. I wish them both Godspeed, because they are what I was talking about. In addition, some of the R&D that resulted in the GPAN has been expanded and applied with great success on drums manufactured by Pan Trinbago for steel pan manufacture. My dear friends, I trust that the journey I just described would serve to explain how I arrived at a vision that, with the help of my colleagues, has evolved over the past year. Of late, I have pegged this vision on a best and worst case scenario for the future of the Caribbean. The worst case scenario is total societal collapse, caused by catastrophic natural disasters or by man-made disasters such as overpopulation, escalating crime, or economic stratification, the divide between rich and poor. I want to sound a warning here that analysis of historical data suggests that societal collapse as a result of economic stratification is actually unavoidable. At the other extreme lies the best case, near utopian scenario, in which we would have achieved the much touted Sustainable Development Goals. Here, governance and culture would make man-made disasters almost an impossibility. And in the aftermath of natural disasters, our citizens will be able to survive and to build and to maintain resilient communities that can grow to re-establish society. Citizens would understand, respect, and protect the ecology. The economy would be robust, buoyed by a mix of large companies and an extremely healthy network of innovation-driven, export-oriented, small and medium enterprises. I surmise that if the governments, NGOs, industries, and tertiary-level institutions of the region could collectively take aim at this scenario, we could get there in a generation. The University of the West Indies is playing its part. It has embarked on a 5-year strategic plan, a critical mission that will pilot its transformation to an institution that would lead Caribbean societies to this near utopian scenario. This AAA strategy has a theme, revitalizing Caribbean development, and sets the 3 A's, access, alignment, and agility, as its top-level strategic goals. At the St. Augustine campus, we have identified 2 major initiatives for immediate implementation. The first seeks to reform our core education processes to become much more efficient and relevant, and to increase access to a wider range of individuals, significantly the underserved. The target is a holistically trained graduate who will be a model citizen of near utopia. The second initiative seeks to address what the UE St. Augustine team calls the innovation imperative, that will see the creation of an innovation ecosystem to expeditiously move potentially viable original ideas and concepts to commercial reality. We have broadened our focus to include ecological and social innovation for the near utopian scenario. This strategic activity is, for me, of the highest priority, for the simple reason that it presents a significant departure in UE business and culture. Its output for the economic focus will be twofold: creating spin-off companies that will enter national and regional economic spaces, and strengthening the international competitiveness of existing companies, all to increase the foreign exchange earning potential of Caribbean. A significant byproduct will be the creation of a culture of innovation. We will be building our people if not one new business comes out of this initiative. We know all too well that many graduates are facing hitherto unseen levels of underemployment. Even in the high-demand professions such as medicine and law. We have accepted the challenge of nurturing the abilities of our students to spot and to exploit commercial opportunities and to derive novel, ingenious, and workable solutions to our economic, societal, and ecological challenges. They should be fully well prepared for the entire spectrum of future scenarios. The legacy we will bequeath will be one of self-sustainability. Such a legacy will be an enduring one and would obliterate the debilitating cultural impact of slavery and indentureship. But even more, it would determine the ultimate survival and growth of our region as a whole. The journey to near utopia and a revitalized Caribbean requires a significant culture shift. Indeed, the personal journey I recounted should make it clear that I know firsthand that it is particularly difficult when people who are solidly embedded in an existing paradigm are required to make significant change. So that being said, my approach will be to challenge the prevailing paradigms by, first of all, working for an early win in the form of a first spin-off company from St. Augustine this year. Applause. Thank you. We're almost there. We will also establish the innovation ecosystem that will include, inter alia, the legal, financial, and business development support, all in collaboration with private and public sectors to form what many call the triple helix. The UE will target students as a priority while working with staff to identify opportunities among the vast array of projects on this campus. We will also contextualize the research paradigm, so now my discomfort is all gone. We'll contextualize the research paradigm that was the source of my discomfort. By re-engineering the HR environment to recognize and support all staff, the accomplished researchers, the proficient teachers, and the adept developers who will These will all play vital roles in this ecosystem. Very conservatively, we would like to spin off one new company every 2 years. But we would like to see much, much more, as by my estimate, we need thousands of export-oriented SMEs to populate the near-utopian economic space. So, I will end my address today by giving a few more acknowledgements. Maestro, if you please. Queuing. Oh, thank you. This was taken from the launch of the G-Pans. The song is called Waltz for Iris. It was written by Ray Holman, his mother. So I'd like to conclude my address by publicly acknowledging and thanking all who have enabled my journey to this signature moment of my career. To my Faculty of Engineering colleagues, Professor Sinclair King, who I've mentioned so much, Dr. Ronald DeFoe, for their long, interesting discussions on national development. To Dr. Malu, a real gem in the UE family when it comes to pedagogy and teaching, and the other faculty members who stimulated my quest for better and more effective teaching. To the support staff who were ever willing to assist when the need arose. To the UE management and staff across all the campuses, and particularly the fine UE management team here at St. Augustine, as well as students, alumni, and stakeholders for the engagement and support during my first 12 months in office. To the many UE colleagues, staff, and students who have collaborated with me and supported me over the years. The government and people of Trinidad and Tobago, and particularly the former Prime Minister, the late Mr. Patrick Manning, for listening, encouraging, and providing support that accelerated my journey. To my colleagues in the steel pan fraternity, particularly those young graduates who delayed their careers to work on the dream of a FI startup. To the co-inventors of the FI, Keith Maynard and the late Earl Phillip and Marcel Byron. To the late Everett Bayer and Dr. Ronald DeFoe for providing human support in the numerous challenges of intellectual property protection. To Jessel Murray and the members of the NSSO for the encouragement and feedback and the exemplary display of professionalism. I must acknowledge 2016 UE honorary graduate Dr. Anthony Williams, from whom I learned to appreciate the science and technology of the steel pan, and who had me scurrying to find my physics text following a lecture he gave years ago. This is a person who did not go through high school. To Pan Trinbago, who helped keep steel pan R&D alive through their efforts in establishing a drum manufacturing plant at the SIP Macoya facility. Saving the best for last, to my family, my wife Priska, my children Keenan and Kathy, for their patience and understanding over the years of my working well into the early hours of the morning, even after a long day's work. To my mother, Udine, who provided my early inspiration through her support and encouragement, and through whom I learned the power of forgiveness and the reality of a God that is infinitely beyond the God defined by religion. To my father, who inspired me with his dedication and motivation to get things done right, and his creative genius brewed from a potent mix of the arts, technology, and culture. My friends, I look forward to your continued support in our efforts to revitalize Caribbean development for the benefit of our children and theirs. This is the only reason I decided to accept the appointment as principal of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies. I'd like to thank you for your attention. Have a good night.
Thank you, Principal, for that inspiring view of your journey thus far and your vision for the future of not only the St. Augustine campus, but for the new entity that you have designated Caribbean. Did I get it right? Caribbean. Thank you, sir. We're near to the end of the formal part of this evening's ceremony. I'd like to invite Ms. Vidya Nanku Haru from the Department of Creative and Festival Arts to do a number called You Never Walk Alone. Thank you, Vidya. Very well done. Before we bring this evening's proceedings to a close, the St. Augustine campus, through our principal, would like to make a special presentation to our Chancellor.
So somewhere here there's supposed to be a package of some sorts. So I will just read it to you, Chancellor. There is a letter coming to you that will say the following. It says, Dear Sir George, on behalf of the University of the West Indies, I would like to extend my sincerest gratitude for your sterling contribution to our prestigious institution. You have shown tremendous fortitude in executing your tasks. Your leadership, concern for students, vision for the UE, and your warm demeanor has been exemplary and worth emulation. The UE is a better place because of you. So, as I'm formally inducted as campus principal, there's very little that I can say to aptly capture my appreciation for the road you've paved. Not only for me, but for our entire university community. As John Maxwell once said, and I quote, "A great leader's courage to fill his vision comes from passion, not position," unquote. We can only hope to maintain your legacy. It is my honor then to make a contribution of $1,000 USD to the George Allen Prize for the most outstanding student in medicine. This award goes to the top student in clinical medicine at the St. Augustine campus. On behalf of the campus community, I wish you the very best as you continue to contribute to the Caribbean region and the wider world. With sincere regards, it will be signed, Professor Brian Copeland, Pro Vice-Chancellor and Campus Principal.
Thank you, Principal, and I'm sure the rest of our university community would like to associate ourselves with your sentiments. There's an exhibition in the main hall at the residence which speaks to the journey that Principal Copeland just described. So when we leave here and we go over to the reception, you'd be invited to certainly view that exhibition. Mrs. Pilgrim would be our guide. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we are at the end of what I hope was a very successful induction. And before we go, we'd like to thank all those who made it possible, starting with you. I've never seen this hall so wonderfully decorated and full of people. It is very heartwarming to see you here. Thank you. We thank all those who brought greetings. We thank all those who performed. We thank the planning committee at St. Augustine, led by our campus principal, Mr. Richard Saunders. Campus registrar, Mr. Richard Saunders. And Dawn Marie Defoe, who led the marketing and communications team. The group from the facilities management, who was responsible for transforming and giving us the ambience that we have. We thank our security director and the security personnel who ensure that the environment was safe and your cars are safely parked. We thank, again, our students, our academic colleagues who came out in numbers to reassure their campus principal. Again, I don't think I've seen such a large academic procession. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So, ladies, this brings to an end this formal induction. Our Chancellor will lead the platform party out, and they would invite Excellencies to join us as we repair to the reception hall at the campus principal's home. Once again, thank you for being such a wonderful audience, and you're invited to join us at the reception.
That brings us to the end of our live stream of the induction ceremony of the 8th Pro Vice-Chancellor and Principal of the St. Augustine campus, Professor Brian Copeland. On behalf of the Chancellor and the administration and staff of the University of the West Indies, particularly here at the St. Augustine campus, thank you for tuning in to celebrate with us. We hope you enjoyed being part of the ceremony. We will be posting all post-event coverage and copies of the speeches from this evening's ceremony on the Induction website at www.sta.ue.edu/induction. The website will be live during the course of the coming week, so you can look out for that. Thank you again for joining us, and continue to have a wonderful evening.